All right, everyone, welcome back to the pair program. I'm Tim Winkler. Got Mike Gruen with me as always. Mike, something I heard this morning. I need to get your 2 cents on. Are you a believer in the Loch Ness monster?
No,
not at all.
Not at all. Answer. I mean, when I was 6 or 7, yeah, sure.
Well, we're missing out on an opportunity because there is there's a monster hunt taking place this weekend out in Scotland.
Oh,
where,
really?
Yeah. There's a group of folks heading out to basically study to try to find Loch Ness again. So if you're not interested in that, it's just a good reason to get to the UK. Just say that you're a believer.
Right. I mean, I'm always fascinated by that stuff and all of the different, this folklore around it, and not just Nessie, but whether it's the, Chupacabra or Sasquatch, any number
Bigfoot,
of them. Yeah. I think it's interesting and fun to think about. But so maybe I'll pull that up and see if anybody finds anything interesting out there.
Yeah, they do these every 50 years, apparently. So anyways, I got caught on some research, and Loch Ness is a very large lake by volume in Great Britain. It's the second largest lake. It's 22 square miles. So I was thinking if we were going to go for a hunt out there, I would be bringing this little ditty with me right here. This is do you have a drone?
I do, actually. I think I have the same one.
Do you? DJI Mini too?
Yep. It's in the closet right over there.
Yeah. So my wife and I take it traveling with me. Love, using it as a way of catching some interesting aerials for photos, videos, or just kind of like surveying the area. But I'll segue that into today's episode because the 2 guests that we have joining us today are both leaders from startups that they play with drones, but they do it in a little bit of a different way. They're both building technologies to combat drones, which they refer to as unmanned aerial systems or UAS in scenarios when drones are being used as maybe a threat to people, militaries, or places. And so for our listeners, a preview of today's episode, we're going to be discussing the topic of startups forming strategic partnerships to facilitate growth. And there's a lot of different, motivators out there as to why startups and companies will partner. I did some digging online on some of the bigger tech partnerships over the last 10 to 20 years. I want to rattle a few of those off for us here. So there was a big partnership between Spotify and Uber in 2014, which allowed for Uber riders to connect their Spotify with their drivers' cars to enjoy a better rider experience. A partnership between Square and Starbucks enabled customers to make payments using Square mobile app, which obviously offers more of a convenient payment option. NASA and SpaceX partnered. NASA provided funding and contracts to SpaceX to develop space cargo transportation to the International Space Station. And IBM and Twitter, and IBM partnered with Twitter to incorporate Twitter's data into IBM's analytics services, Watson, their cloud-based apps. And this combined real-time data with powerful analytics capabilities. So lastly, we had the partnership of DroneShield and Epirus, which I'm sure many of our listeners have not heard the names of these 2 tech companies or have any idea of what kind of their partnership consisted of. But you'll learn about it today. It's a fascinating partnership between 2 companies that are building technologies that are driving innovations on the front lines of safety for war fighters and our militaries, as well as safety in other commercial applications like in public arenas, stadiums, airports, and a lot more. And so with all of that, I'd like to introduce our 2 guests joining us today. We've got Matt McCrann, the US-based CEO of DroneShield. He previously served as its VP of sales, has held leadership roles at CamV Technologies, which is an AI startup, served as an intelligence analyst for the US Navy for a number of years, and is a member of NSA's Cryptologic Direct Support Element. And we have Daniel Kultran, the CTO of Epirus. He has a background in RF and mixed signal electronics design, previously held roles at Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Broadcom, holds a master's from the University of Southern California, and also has 12 patents. Guys, thank you both for joining us today on the pair program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, good stuff. So I know that intro leaves a lot of intrigue. Everybody's on a cliffhanger right now wanting to learn more. But before we jump into the heavy stuff, let's kick things off with our favorite bit, Pair Me Up. Mike, this is where you kind of tee us up and lead us off with your pairing.
Yeah. Today, my pairing. I was just recently on vacation. So it's new places and new people. Went out. Visited a friend out in Montana. He had rented a pavilion and had a bunch of people in the tech community out there come out and just had a good time, just meeting a lot of people and just getting a feel for all these different walks of life and different, it wasn't just the tech community that was there. He also invited friends and other people, and it was in a big park, and other people stopped by and we just sort of chatted. It was great. And also just being out in a totally different part of the country is always fun. So new
That's
places,
cool.
new people.
Yeah, a lot of these conferences too, they take place in these remote destinations of these national parks, like Snowbird in Utah is another big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually where like Agile was formed, or the development philosophy of Agile was formed out in Snowbird. But definitely a big fan of Montana. Sounds like a good time.
Yep.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna jump in. So kind of repping the shirt here. I'm gonna go with girl dads and hair bows. So as a girl dad, got a 8-month-old daughter. She's blessed with a good head of hair. And I quickly learned that I can't dress her in an outfit without pairing it with a fresh hair bow. That either complements the color. We brought a few here for those on the YouTube channel to check here, but it's either the color or the pattern. Kind of become a hair bow connoisseur, baby fashionista. If any of our listeners are interested in advice on how to best accessorize your daughter's outfit, just DM me. I'm happy to share my knowledge with you. I've been training for this for years now. So that is my pairing. I'm going with girl dads and hair bows. Are any of you guys girl dads by chance?
Right here.
How's your accessory game when outfitting them?
Yeah, I definitely understand the pain of doing the hair. My youngest daughter keeps her hair about waist length, so it's quite a project.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, mine is 15 now, so I think my fashion is a little out of style.
Well, good stuff. I'm gonna kick it your all's way, and I'll start with you, Matt. Why don't you give us a quick intro and tell us your pairing?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, Matt McCrann. I'm the US CEO of DroneShield. Been in the role for about 4 years with the company now. We'll get into some of the cool things that we're doing and some of the partnership activities with companies like Epirus here. But my pairing today is actually inspired by my youngest daughter. So I'm going to go with peanut butter and gummy worms, which was news to me. I never heard of this pairing before a couple days ago. I was thinking about, coming on the podcast here and this question, and kind of taking it in a personal way where it's, early mornings and reading, which I like to do, or in a technology way where it's like kinetic and non-kinetic defense systems, which we might talk about later today, until my daughter threw me a curveball and asked me the question of, which would you rather eat? And she said a peanut butter and gummy worm sandwich, which I stopped right there. Not a big gummy worm or gummy bear guy. But she said, you have to pick one. So peanut butter and gummy worms, or a tuna fish sandwich with marshmallows and barbecue sauce. So, with the other option, I conceded and took the peanut butter and gummy worms. And I guess the main takeaway there is, a good pairing is very relative to what your options are. So,
love it.
Bravo, yeah.
Good takeaway, Matt.
She's got a hell of a creative mind on her.
Yeah, she does a lot of reading. So I think she pulls ideas from here and here, puts them together, and that's how you end up with a gummy worm and peanut butter sandwich.
Pretty sure I might be dabbling in that after this. I might have to give it a try. My mind's spinning. I'm fairly intrigued. I remember as a kid, was it like the dirt dessert that had like the gummy worms in there, and it was like Oreos and pudding. Yeah, that's a dessert. I guess that's a little different, but at least the peanut butter is a little sweeter versus like tuna fish. You kind of lost me immediately when you threw in marshmallows.
Yeah.
Good pairing. I dig that. Dan, how about yourself? A quick intro on your pairing.
Yeah, sure. Dan Kultran, CTO of Epirus. I've been with the company for about 4 years now. And as you said, I've been at multiple defense and commercial companies here. And we'll get into the kind of things that we do here at Epirus. But for my pairing today, kind of what you let in with the nature thing and then a little bit of a family thing like Matt is mountains and fresh air. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's something I really missed this year because typically every year we would go camping. Either at the beach or in the mountains, Yosemite, and so on and so forth, Sequoia. But this year, with all the things that are happening with the company, we're so busy with work, so on and so forth. And my kids are a little more grown, so they're teenagers now. They play a lot of sports, volleyball, baseball, you name it, right? It was just so busy, so many tournaments that you go to. We didn't get a chance to unwind together as a family, and I really miss that. Not only that we're busy, when we go to the mountains, for example, we get to disconnect, with our devices, because oftentimes you kind of force, if I have my phone there, there's no signal up in the mountains. So it's kind of nice to be able to disconnect and reflect on all the things that you've been working on for the first half of the year and then really come back to the second half of the year really renewed and have a sense of, kind of organization in your mind. Because I know my mind is kind of like going everywhere, all the time, right? With all the things that are going on. So, and that's something I really missed this year. And I hope we make a really concerted effort next year to go to the mountains and disconnect a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great pairing. I'm pulling a couple of things from that, like just getting away and kind of like pressing the reset button as well. Like I'm the same way. Like I feel like sometimes I get caught in this hamster wheel where if I don't step away and unplug and getting into nature and just kind of like isolating, it's tough to come back with like a creative mind or.
Yeah, absolutely. You get into what we call a do loop. You just do.
Just do loop.
Instead of like thinking strategically and be able to like parse things out and maybe not do certain things,
Right. So what was the one of your favorite parks that you mentioned that you go hiking to? Was it Sequoia?
We go to Yosemite National Park a lot. We used to go maybe almost every year, but somewhere around, right, in that area, Central California. But this year we didn't get a chance to go.
Yeah, the fresh air is another one too. It's been tough to with a lot of the wildfires that have been hitting as well. It's been kind of eye-opening on the East Coast anyways, maybe a little bit more common on the West Coast, but with the wildfires in Canada, it's like you really appreciate having some fresh, clean air getting out and about.
Sure. Around the world, right? Like Greece and Italy and all those places all have wildfires this year.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Well, I dig the pairings all around. Let's transition into the heart of the discussion here. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about a broader topic of forming strategic partnerships as a means to drive innovation and fuel growth for startups. Specifically, kind of hearing about some use cases for interesting technologies that combine like hardware and software. Quite frankly, though, half of the intrigue in this episode, for me at least, is just learning about some really interesting technology that's being built by both of our guests and their companies. I'll tease it with a brief descriptor from one of the products from Epirus called the Leonidas Directed Energy System, which I was sharing with Mike this morning, and he said it sounds like a euphemism for Star Wars blasters. So it is seriously some fascinating tech that we're going to learn about. So let's jump into it. Why don't we start the conversation by having both of you all provide us with just more of an overview of your company and the problems that you're solving, and then we can jump into more specifics on how the partnership came about. But Matt, why don't we kick off with you and start with telling us a little bit more about DroneShield?
Yeah, so DroneShield is a Counter-UAS company. We are basically responsible, or the technology we develop is geared towards detecting, identifying, tracking, and then when necessary, defeating adversarial drones. So drones like what we see on the battlefields over in Ukraine, drones that we see domestically here too, that are involved in smuggling operations or pose a threat to critical infrastructure. There's really, without having a counter-UAS and a multi-layered counter-UAS solution in place, people, critical infrastructure, assets are really soft targets. There's no means to defend the air over their space or their area of operation. So that's where we step in. We provide situational awareness, so tools that can tell them what's in their airspace, and then can also help or accelerate the threat assessment. Do you have to be concerned about what's in your airspace? And then this way they can move to a response posture if there is indeed a real threat.
Yeah, it's a fascinating space. It sounds like it's moving very quickly. A lot of developments happening. Drones, anybody can purchase a drone, right? And so when you think about that, it does spark a little fear when you think about, somebody has some twisted idea, and what it could, what harm it could cause. And then thinking about how to take one down. I was watching one of your all's explainer videos, and I think it was from you all, but there's options out there that, people are just still experimenting with, but one of them being birds of prey, which was wild, which is like sending hawks or eagles out to legit take these things down. But obviously that's it.
Just to comment on that. I mean, it's effective, but it doesn't scale, right?
It's not scalable.
Yeah, so we're trying to apply technology so we can scale a solution because, like you said, drones are so accessible now for good and bad purposes. So we focus on countering the bad.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to peel that back a little bit more. But Dan, why don't we pass it to you and give us a little bit more context on Epirus?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, Epirus is a high growth technology company. We develop cutting edge dual use technology for both defense and commercial applications. And as you already said, our flagship product, Leonidas, we believe it is the most effective and the most efficient high power microwave system in the world today. And what we focus on is counter swarm mission, right? So when you're talking about many drones coming at you, that's what we focus on, and you can see today it's very readily available. 4th of July just passed, and I was at my house is near the beach, and Redondo Beach has a drone show. There are hundreds of drones creating a flag, all kinds of show that you can do, and we envision that as that is the way of the future, where many drones are coming at you. So really, simply put, we're at Epirus, we're turning science fiction into fact, into reality, right? I always liken our system to if you have a USS Enterprise in Star Trek, right? You got the kinetics people shooting photon torpedoes at things, and you got the laser people have the phaser, right? That shoots a beam at a target. For us, we're this shield that, not to steal Matt's thunder here because he's DroneShield, we provide this invisible shield around the Enterprise that, if you come from multiple angles, you cannot penetrate our wall. So that's kind of like what we do here at Epirus. We do a lot of other things too. We do, research projects for advanced technologies for DARPA and things like that. But today we focus a lot on our effector, Leonidas.
What's the distance that this shield kind of can reach to? Or
I can't tell you,
okay.
or I'll have to kill you, kind of deal. but it is enough.
I was gonna say I think the answer is it's enough.
Yeah. That might not be the last time we hear, I can't tell you, or I'd have to kill you on this episode.
It's kind of like the unfortunate thing about a little success that we have, right?
For sure.
We have government customers now, certain things we just can't say.
Yeah. Well, some of the stuff that's public knowledge, right? What's the size from a head count and I guess funding to kind of give our listeners a little bit of a context on the scope and size of you all?
Matt, do you want to go? Or you want me to go first?
No, you can go, Dan.
Yeah, sure. Epirus raised quite a bit of funding, north of $300 million in 3 rounds up to Series C. And we're at about 200 people. We've grown from, I was number 17 at the company and now over 200.
Wow, that's awesome.
Quite a bit of growth in the last few years that we've been here.
That's really neat. Matt, how about DroneShield?
Yeah, so DroneShield is a little smaller. So we're at about a head count of 85 globally now. And we've taken in multiple rounds of investment. Our parent company, DroneShield Limited, is actually publicly traded on the Australian Stock Exchange. And we had the pleasure of having Epirus join our investment team towards the tail end of last year, making a initial investment in us, which has really sparked the collaborative efforts of our 2 teams. So that would be probably the origin point of some of the partnership discussion that we'll have today.
Yeah, it's a good tee up. Let's kind of start there. So curious to hear about this partnership that formed. Dan, we're fortunate to have you being such an early settler at Epirus, right? So you've seen a lot of things grow and change over the years. But how did this partnership form with DroneShield? I'm always curious in terms of was there multiple vendors you were looking into, and was it a strategic investment because you knew it was going to have an impact on your all's technology? Talk us through a little bit more of how that all got scouted and kicked off.
Yeah, sure. I can comment a little bit on that. So one of the things that we looked at was, we cannot do everything well, but we can do one thing really well. And as we analyze the landscape of counter swarms, we see that the gap is in the effector to begin with, right? So remember, we never had $300 million to begin with. Mm-hmm. We had single-digit million, and then 2-digit million, and then 3-digit millions, right? So we look at it with the limited time and resources that we had. We focus on the effector first, okay? Making sure that it's already a hard problem trying to do high-power microwave. But little did we know how hard it is, right? We're talking about tools that cannot really predict plasma breakdown of our system. We have to learn all of those things. So it was wise for us to focus on the effector first, okay? So knowing that, we really focus on one thing and be the best at that one thing. So then as the landscape grew, Counter-UAS became a thing. There's problems in Ukraine and whatnot. There's already a lot of really good companies out there like DroneShields and the likes that are providing the eyes and the sensors and the software system that point Leonidas in the right direction and shoot something down, right? So I think it was a wise decision for us to focus on that and then partner with new startups like DroneShield to really bring forth the full solution for our warfighters.
I think it's interesting on that partnership side, because I've been at any number of startups and there's always this but we might want to get into that business at some point. So we don't really want, there's this frenemy type thing. And so it can be really difficult to get those partnerships going because people feel if we partner with them, then that precludes us from maybe doing something in the future. And I think that's just such a terrible.
It's an old mindset of
exactly.
Right? I think our mission, the intersection of our mission and technology today is really at play. Mm-hmm. It's how can we bring forth the disruption in our defense industry to feel something to our warfighters faster? not how much more money can we make in the future if we keep this all as a vertical. So
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, there's a saying in our space where there is no silver bullet type solution, and there's a huge focus on interoperability, and that's something that both Epirus and DroneShield do really well, and that's why it was a natural partnership. It's you're best in breed here, we are best in breed here. Our customer, our mutual customer, needs the end-to-end solution. So let's paint what it could look like for them, and in fact, take it a step further and show them. And that's, I think, the most that's a fruitful way to start a partnership when you're trying to co-develop or solve a problem together with a mutual customer in the mix and in the room as well.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you guys are working on like physical security, OT, operational technology, and kinetic and stuff that's happening in the real world. In cybersecurity, I see that it's that defense in depth mentality, and it does create. I think there's much more partnership in certain industries than in others, and I feel like security in general, everybody agrees. Like in order to really do this right, we have to partner. We have to have this interoperability. As you said, there's not one single solution. It's going to be all of these things working together. And the more we can have them working together, sort of the better off we all are. So it's cool to see, that's still the case and happening.
Well, that's spot on.
Yep.
Did the partnership open up new markets for either side? Or was it more around, a mutual customer and, let's start there and then maybe explore, mutually how we can impact other markets. But I'm always curious because for one, seems like both of these are dual use technologies. I'm always curious on what came first, a commercial customer or a government customer. But then also, that mutual customer, did it open up doors to new markets, or did you already see, multiple outlets here that made sense beyond just one mutual customer?
Yeah, I mean, I can comment from the DroneShield side, and then Dan, if you want to add to it from your perspective. Yeah, so for us, military first, they have the most mature requirements and the most pressing need. Other markets, other verticals, call them. Are figuring it out now, right? They're seeing and putting together all the information that they might have a problem, and here's what it might look like. Whereas the military, US DoD has been at this, since 2014, 2015. They were starting to look at this problem. So a little further along the path there. So that's DroneShield specifically focuses on military, federal agencies, federal law enforcement. We do have commercial customers worldwide and critical infrastructure that are growing, but it started with our military customer base. And through the partnership with Epirus, even though it's still on the younger side or early stage, we focused there on some of the military, but also we're starting to see other things open up on the homeland security side, which would probably be the natural next market, so to speak, for a joint solution of from both of us. But Dan might have other viewpoints on that and other strategic lines of effort.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think we're very much aligned there. Our first customers will be the DoD, right, in the different services. Today, we really focus a lot on the Army piece, where they want to do forward-based protection and so on and so forth. But we envision through that partnership with DroneShield, there's international opportunities that we can have as well, right? So strategic partnership on the continental US and also outside of USA makes a lot of sense with DroneShield, where they're from Australia. Now, in terms of having partnership, we don't just partner with DroneShield, right? If you look at online, we have lots of PR about partnering with other similar companies like DroneShield. That opens up more opportunities, more inroads into other services as well. And HPM, we feel, is going to be one of the layered mechanism in our protection of our service people, right? The Navy, the Air Force, the Armies, SOCOM, and so forth. So absolutely, I think, having partnership opens up the world, not just the US based customers.
I'm curious, Dan, which sort of came first, the mutual customer, and that's what led you to DroneShield, or did you see DroneShield and like you guys just created this partnership and you then are like, oh, we have these mutual customers? Was it a customer that brought you guys together, I guess is my question?
I think it's the need of the customers that brought us together. Like Matt said, customers are looking for a solution, right? They're not looking for a gadget. Like the Army, when they buy Leonidas, if they don't have a solution in front of them, they have to go find the solution, work with other sensors provider, other radar provider. What we do is by giving them an easy button that said, hey, here's your solution. There you go. Here's a capability, here's a solution, and they can digest that much easier than having this long process of the customer being the integrator of all these systems, right? So that speeds up the acquisition process.
That's awesome. I think that's a great way to do it, because having been at so many places where it's the customer that's trying to force these two things together. And it's like, okay, now I guess we will create a partnership, but it's all through this third party. It gets more difficult and more challenging, and also building something that's really a solution for multiple customers, not just a spot, this one thing that solves this one customer's problems. So that's awesome.
I'm always curious too, just from selecting a partner, other things that go into this. Other things that go into this in terms of like alignment of values or goals and vision. Did that come into play when forming and making a final decision on this was the right partner for us?
Yeah, Matt, do you want to go with
sure. That's a huge part of it, Tim. When you come across a partner that has, complementary technology and the approach, the company's philosophy is a match as well. I mean, that's how you can accelerate things. Otherwise, you're just basically postponing the inevitable problem or bottleneck where the two companies are not aligned, like you mentioned earlier. And it is about alignment. And I like to look at it because I'll put on my sales or BD hat because I come from that world. You start with the who. You start with the customer and work backwards, right? If you don't have common customer or common projected or prospected customers, you're going to have that misalignment down the line too, because customer requirements, everyone has a little different flavor. And if someone's building something and their core customer base is over here and you serve this customer here, eventually it's going to get hard to get everyone on the same path to solve this problem when this problem becomes a priority. So I think that alignment too. It's a lot easier when you start with the customer and the who, and then your why is a who is baked into a why, and then the how comes when you understand the problem.
Yeah, excellent, Matt. If I may comment here, I think Matt already touched on the fact that we do serve the same sort of customers, right, in the DoD military space. But more than that, I think we serve the same similar mission, and we have the same corporate culture of agility, rapid delivery of cutting edge technologies for future defense technology, right? And we're both working to disrupt the status quo of technology capability development for DoD applications today. We're like the disruptor of the disruptor, right? Like people want to brand themselves, they're, primes are disruptor of primes. We're like the disruptor of the disruptor. That we're the new gen of this new defense strategy, and we're just creating things that can fit in multiple scenarios, having architectures, because we're not encumbered by what we already made. We came to this company with nothing, We have to build everything from the ground up. And therefore, we can think a little bit differently than trying to fit a product that was already have a big R&D budget behind it to fit into other things, right? So from the ground up, we design our technology to have an architecture that can fit on a boat, fit on an airplane, fit on a Humvee, fix on a JLV, whatever it is. So that's kind of like where we see, how our corporate structure and our line of thinking really align with DroneShield.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating just thinking through, a lot of the difficulties of tapping into a space like defense tech, right? Because for one, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of bureaucracy, right? And how do you kind of cut through that and maybe navigate one of a little bit of a shortcut? I think partnerships is a really creative outlet for that, right? Because the reality is, once you get a past performance under your belt, it becomes a lot easier. So if you can attach yourself to a project or a technology or a product that's being built, that's kind of like a plug and play without having to start from scratch, you save yourself a lot of time from a BD perspective. And I think, that's one way of, even though you're both startups, but, maybe Epirus is a little bit more at a little bit further along in the process. It's really a way of helping out, somebody like a DroneShield that's trying to tap in and scale it a little bit quicker. I'm just using that as a hypothetical. I'm not saying that's how it went, but I'm just playing that out as like, I talk to a lot of founders that are trying to build dual use technologies. And if they started commercial and they have no idea on how to really like transition this into a government customer, a partnership is a really nice advantage to figure out a way of, hitch onto that wagon and get that past performance under your belt.
Yeah, Tim, I think you really touched on a point here I want to comment on is this pull through, right? So if we're successful as Epirus, we can also pull DroneShield into our success because we're already a partner. So if DroneShield is successful in something else, DroneShield can say, hey, look at the technology. We're already fully integrated with Epirus. You have a problem, pull our technology through. So either way, it's a bi-directional road that we all win, right? And ultimately, our customers win because the time and the value of time and the money they don't have to spend on all of that really makes a huge benefit for our customers.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. And then also I'd add to that we're talking and focused on startups. Our company in the last 12 months, DroneShield has really focused on the transition from startup to scale up. You need partnerships to hit that scale up stride from a business perspective. We're a small team, 200 on the Epirus side, 85 or so on the DroneShield side. We can't be in every conversation that we need to be. We can't be in front of every customer 5 days a week that we need to be or would benefit from. So it's the partnerships, and having that alignment with the partnerships is like a force multiplier. And that's so the last 12 months, that's what we've really focused on, is building partnerships with companies like Epirus, ones that like to work like we do, disrupt like we do as well. I like the disruptor's disruptor slogan there, the tagline there, Dan. I think we're going to have to do something like that.
We're building swag as we speak. T-shirts. What I'm curious about the role of say like strategic partnerships, right, within the org. I earlier stages, Matt, maybe you can touch on this. Is that really your job in the BD seat to identify who's going to be a good partner for us, what opportunities coincide? And then when does that role become something that you're like, okay, like I need to hire somebody that's going to be focused as heads of strategic partnerships or something along those lines? Like when did it happen in your all's evolution? And what is that department almost if it is a department, how does that look like as the company grows?
It's a department when all of us put on that hat for the day, and then that department goes away when we put on a different hat. But no, so you're pulling on a lot of accurate things there, Tim. So it starts with the vision, right? And I alluded to that earlier. We made a conscious effort saying, this is how we're going to build out our sales, our business development efforts. We have a strong core team within DroneShield, but we can't reach everywhere. So how are we going to build that? Again, it starts with the customer. Who does the customer, what problems do they have? What other partners or technology providers are they looking at? And how do they use our stuff in their mission? When they purchase a DroneShield product or solution, what other technology does that touch? Does it touch an effector, a kinetic effector? Does that touch a high power microwave? Is that the vision they have? So, okay, let's start building that partnership, that team of partners to solve problems based on the problems that they're trying to solve or scratching their heads around. So that's the vision part internally. Then it's formalizing a relationship, working with a company like Epirus, identifying what makes sense. What's your footprint? What's our footprint? Where are we trying to go? Maybe there's a merging of requirement, capabilities on both sides, and customer need. And budget always helps too, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to shape everything. It'd be nice if they were also working to shape some budget allocation to solve this problem. But so once that is understood and there's a mutual agreement, like, yes, we can do this together, then it's engineering team, linking up, understanding the lower level technical of what this needs to look like, what could it look like, and then the BD teams as well, working in unison on specific opportunities. And that's where it kind of flows down or flows through the organization from our perspective there.
A really helpful picture that you just painted there. I think, I think about it in the seat of running a small services company here, and the idea of, taking a lead on just, almost like hand selecting, what really makes sense, dissecting the customer that we're working with and seeing, what are those other pain points that we could help scratch that itch by use of somebody's other, service or product. It's a really simplistic way of painting it, but it's easier said than done. But it sounds like you all have made a lot of success, and I think it only builds from that, right? Once you see it work in a current scenario, and then it's start to pull apart other areas that you could be effective in.
For sure. And if I was to give advice to a startup who's trying to do partnerships, I would say it isn't easy, right? What you see today are culmination of a lot of effort from the beginning stages, like Matt said. Who do we partner with? Does it have strategic alignment? So on and so forth. Early on when we looked at DroneShield, it goes across the entire organization, right? Strategic team brings forth, hey, what do you think about DroneShield and whatnot? That goes to everyone in the organization, including me, looking at technology piece. Like, does DroneShield have the right technology to be our partner, right? And all of that, as we conclude, and we have partners with DroneShield today, doesn't even end there. It takes a lot of nurture, a lot of efforts in between to get to where we are today, because there's a lot of resources and time. There's going to be a lot of calls that we got to make. Hey, these are the things that we got to do. When do we do it? Who do we assign to it, right? DroneShield assigned a whole team coming here to Epirus. Epirus assigned a whole team of engineers to integrate DroneShield's technology into our whole suite of tools here. So, and we need to make APIs, and DroneShield needs to expose their APIs. All of those things take a lot of time and effort. So choose your partner carefully. That would be my advice to if startup wants to get into this game.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're spot on with the engineering side and all of those conversations of who's going to own what part of the integration and how that's all going to come. And having been in those conversations, it's a lot of fun. Like, if it's a good partner, can be fun conversations about all the different things you can do and all the problems you can solve. But also on the sales, marketing, all the different other aspects, like making sure that you understand, like, who's going to own on the go-to-market strategy and how we're going to advertise, who's going to say what and how we're going to coordinate on all of that. I think are things that especially engineers don't really think about, right? We think about it at this technical level. How can we integrate? And they don't necessarily think about like, all right, so then how do we communicate this and how does it actually look from a business perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's got to be holistic like that, Mike, because, there's a full disclaimer, not all partnerships work, but you don't know until you go through the vetting stages, like you're saying, where Dan's evaluating potential tech partners while the BD team is also evaluating, is there a market for a joint offering? The one thing to be aware of from my perspective is shiny object syndrome, where there's a lot of cool tech out there, and you're doing something cool, we're doing something cool, we should put it together. Who's the customer? What are you solving? You can integrate a bunch of things, but what is the end result? What are you trying to get to? So it's a very holistic approach across an organization with the business team, with the engineering team, and then also with the overall strategy at a corporate level.
Yeah, we had an episode about like post acquisition expectations, and I kind of think a little bit about that in terms of how will these teams merge together? How is it built up that we're bringing these folks in or we're acquiring this company? That it's something that translates across the entire org. It's not just like usually one department that's impacted. It impacts everybody that's a part of it. So it's just a fascinating topic. Well, I want to save some time here for our final segment, but just general takeaways. Just really fascinated with what you guys are building, and the use cases that you all are doing. I think is just a ton of positives that we'll learn from. And I think when we see some of the stuff that's happened with the war in Ukraine, I think these are things that people can start to it puts them in a seat of like there's scary shit that's going on out there that we want to start to create tools to help solve some of these problems that are happening. So we're cheering you all on from the sidelines and encouraged by the work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Well, let's jump into the final segment here, the 5-second scramble. So we're gonna talk kind of quick rapid fire Q&A. Try to keep your answers under 5 seconds. Some business, some personal. I'm gonna start with you, Dan, and then I'll jump to you, Matt. So Dan, are you ready?
Yeah, as ready as I can be.
Okay. Explain Epirus to me as if I were a 5-year-old.
Oh, that's a tough one. But imagine a bunch of really crazy people getting together with adult supervision, trying to accomplish a task, and with a singular mind of solving that problem. That's who we are. No matter how hard it is, we will solve that problem. And that's the kind of the growth mindset that we have here at Epirus.
Nice.
Aside from all the technology that I explained to you earlier, this kind of here at Epirus.
That might be over their heads. So we'll keep it at that for now. How would you describe the culture at Epirus?
At the essence of who we are, we're always having this convergence of technology, the mission, and what I call the growth mindset, right? We really don't mind failure at Epirus.
Mm-hmm.
If we think about it, the things that we're trying to do is really hard. And if we're constantly reminded that we fail. That's the key here, but it's okay. We march on and we keep, going to first principle, understanding the physics, understanding the fundamentals, and we solve those problems. And, there are so many that we solve here at Epirus on high power microwave, waveforms, and so on and so forth. It's a hard problem we're working on.
I would say, sorry, usually I don't interject. I'd say failure is not learning from your mistakes. That's when you failed. Mistakes are fine. It's not learning from them that's failure. Anyway, go on.
Right on.
Yeah. I'm reading a book called The Mindset right now. It's all about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it's Yeah, it's fascinating. So I like that answer.
I love that.
What kind of technologist thrives at Epirus?
Someone that I would say are not emotional about things. I would say, because I think we thrive a lot on praises, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone with patience, someone with acumen to say and analyze the failures, like what Mike said, and why. And are we breaking physics or not? We always ask that. Are we making a mistake by not ignoring the physics, right? Is it possible, first of all? And if it is, we'll find a way to say it, to make sure that we solve that problem. That would be the kind of people that we hire here, not just for engineering, but for supply chain, that think outside the box, that can say, hey, it took a long time if I was at another company, but how can I make that better here at Epirus?
Very cool. What can folks be most excited about for Epirus heading into 2024, or what you can tell us, anyways?
I have a lot here. I'm a CTO, right? My mind is always dreaming. But we're entering a phase of another cycle of innovation here at Epirus, right? We're going to continue on advancing and building our HPM portfolio, but now we have the opportunity, as we mature our technology to some degree, to add new wave of innovation. I can't tell you all the little things that we're working on at Epirus, but there's a ton of innovation that we're working on, from our ideas with DARPA, from our ideas on even including different things into Leonidas.
Very cool.
Yeah.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, maybe ability to clone, not myself, but clone my engineers. They're hard to come by, So
sounds like Epirus is hiring. It sounds like, as well. If you could pick one fast food joint to establish as the first restaurant on Mars, what would it be?
Oh, it's an easy one. I'm in here in the Southwest. It would be an In-N-Out.
That's the most common answer out there in California. I can tell you, a lot of folks would argue Five Guys on you on that one, but we'll let you have the In-N-Out. It's
all right.
It is good. What's something that you like to do but you're not very good at?
Software programming. I love to do software, because I'm a hardware guy, right? I feel like there's so much more stress in software, because at least in the hardware, you kind of you measure it fails, and it has few relative to software. Software is like, yeah, it works. You can recompile and all that. But then there's like different modes that you never thought of that will make you fail, and you just can't wrap your head around it. So I wish I was better at software programming.
Mike, what are you thinking? Teeing up an episode here soon on something like this? Sounds like a good future episode.
Yeah, because it's funny because I think the same thing about hardware, that it seems much more complicated than software. But anyway, we'll move on.
Happy to do another podcast and debate.
Let's get a couple of embedded software engineers on here, have them tell us what they think. All right, what is a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
Ooh, man, this one's a tough one. Can I take a pass? But we donate a lot as a family. And I'll put a stake in the ground. I guess, this could be controversial, but one of the things that we do is 40 Day for Life. We not only donate our money, but we donate a lot of our time. And I don't want to explain to you what they do, but basically we do a lot of educational and kind of letting people know what's going on with Planned Parenthood and things like that.
Cool. Yeah, we'll plug the website in the show notes when we push it live. What's something that you're very afraid of?
I'm afraid of the dark.
Oh, that's a common one.
No, I mean, like really, really afraid of the dark.
It's like that. We'll keep the lights on here for you.
I used to sleep with lights on when I was little.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. All right. Last one. Do you have a favorite superhero of all time?
Oh man, I love Avengers. My superhero would be. It's hard. This is a hard one. I don't have like that's my favorite. If I have to pick one, Wonder Woman. I think because easy on the eyes. She has a lot of superpowers, and she's more powerful than most of the other Avengers.
Yep. Good stuff. I like that answer. All right, that's it. You passed with flying colors there, Dan. I appreciate that. Matt, we're gonna kick it over to you now. Okay, we're close with you.
All right.
Some of these will be fairly similar. So explain DroneShield to me as if I were a 5-year-old.
Yeah. So DroneShield provides technology that helps protect people from bad guys.
Got it. What would you say is your favorite part about the culture at DroneShield?
Oh, there's a lot. Just recently, like I mentioned, we were going through that transition phase, and the culture is, I'm noticing a change in that it's more organic and it's taking on a life of its own. And it's really cool to see, when you're there from the early stages where it's really dependent on one or two people that are driving it and kind of the brand, to see how it morphs and evolves with more people coming on board. So that's pretty cool. A core element is that we're all mission focused. It's all about the mission. We move fast. And we speak directly too. So there's not, and it comes from a good place. So you can do a lot with that when you have that kind of candid culture.
Cool. What kind of technologist thrives at DroneShield?
One that's proactive, one that's curious, and one that's resilient. Things are not going to go the way you want. Those requirements that you think you're coming in to work on, throw them out the window. Here's new ones because something just changed. So someone who can roll with the punches and continue to understand the why behind what they're doing. So that resilience aspect goes a long way with us.
Nice. Looking forward into 2024, what are some things that you're really excited about with some of this growth at DroneShield?
Yeah, so we have a lot of momentum right now, and it's been a lot of groundwork laid. We've grown 2 and 3 times over year for the last 4 years. And wow. Now we're taking a huge leap this year in 2023 with that growth. And we have a lot of cool technology in the works that is coming from, say, like a TRL-7, which is a technology readiness level, where it can go out there and be initially tested with end users. We have a lot of cool projects at that level that we're pushing out now, and we'll see those mature very quickly here towards the first quarter of 2024. So we're excited about a lot of things.
That's awesome. What was your favorite cereal as a kid?
As a kid, whatever was colorful and sweet right now.
Fruity Pebbles, yeah.
Frosted Mini Wheats or something a little more nutritious. But Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. CTC. That's the number one answer right there. That's good.
Well, it should be.
Exactly.
Are your kids allowed to have this cereal?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a staple in the house still today.
Awesome.
That's why I still get to try it every once in a while. It's right next to the Frosted Mini Wheats.
Strategic play. What is a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
Yeah. So, good question. There's one that comes to mind, a nonprofit called Task Force Antol. They do a lot of humanitarian work in war-torn countries. So there are two initiatives right now. They do work in Ukraine, providing basically medical training and first aid training to civilians who, have their lives turned upside down and need to be self-sufficient on the ground. And then they do a lot of work with the fallout of folks from the pullout of Afghanistan. So those are their two core missions, and they do a lot of good work. Very small team. Definitely worth checking out.
How do you spell Antol? Was it
ANTAL? So it should be taskforceantol.org if you're looking for the website.
Cool. Yeah, we'll post that in the show notes as well. If you could live in a fictional world from a book or movie, which one would you choose?
That's more of a nonfiction guy and real world guy. But so the family is reading all the Harry Potter books right now with my youngest. So they kind of play in our world, but yeah, I think it'd be cool to live in that fictional setting.
Nice. Mike, did you watch Harry Potter?
Yeah.
What's the name of the little area that we're referring to here?
What do you mean the name of the area?
Is it like what's the name of his? Isn't that a?
You mean the name? Hogwarts.
The name of the school is Hogwarts, but there's other schools. But there's multiple schools. It's the whole thing.
Clearly, I have some catching up to do.
It's in the real world, so it's like a layer on top of the real world.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's why it resonates with you.
Yeah. It's still a little grounded.
Yeah.
What's the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
Oh man. Yeah, so I grew up in the early 90s, so probably the baggy everything.
Janko jeans, jeans
where the jeans hang off the waist pretty significantly. Probably the worst fashion trend.
Janko jeans and a pager. That's kind of what I'm envisioning.
Yeah, and the airwalks too.
Yeah, good visual. All right, last one. What was your dream job as a kid?
Football player. That one's easy.
Nice.
I was so going to play football, and then that didn't happen. So,
well, football season's upon us. Who's your team? College or NFL?
Miami Dolphins. So we've had about 25 rough years, and the last two have been okay. So things are looking up.
Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, that's a wrap. I want to thank you guys both so much for joining us. Both have been great guests, and we're excited to keep tracking the fascinating work that both of your all's companies are doing. So thank you again for joining us. Appreciate your all's time joining us on the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having us.